Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you today. First, a sex offender gets a free pass after a schoolyard scare. What is going on in Idaho? Another quadruple murder shakes the gem state. Kohberger getting closer to a motive. The curious case of James Craig, a tale of poison. DA ordered to spill the tea on why Menendez Brothers abuse claims were swept under the rug. The DA is going to get the medical records in the Vallow case to see if she was, let's say, truthful to the court. We have this day in legal history. Our quote of the day has to deal with mental health issues, and should the court be the place to deal with all that? And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't. Like if you do. Leave me a comment below. Hit that bell for notifications. And yes, you can check us out anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Now, let me remind you before we get started to go to crimetalksearch.com. Sign up for that background subscription service today. When you do, you'll be able to find out in a background report that is literally prepared while you wait and then emailed to you and can be updated if new information becomes available, all kinds of information about the person you are searching. Now, when you have that subscription, whether you want to do 1 or 1,000 searches, you can do it all. You're going to find out the person you're searching. You're going to find out phone numbers, email addresses, social media presence, whether they have a criminal history. Are they married? Are they divorced? Do they have liens, judgments, criminal history? And yes, are they on a sex offender registry? Go to crimetalksearch.com and find out today. It'll provide you the peace of mind that you are looking for. All right, let's go ahead and get going on today's docket for Monday, July 14th, 2024. A sex offender gets a free pass. That's right, here in our great state of Colorado, because of a new competency law. Now, in a plot twist that feels like it was ripped from a Kafka novel, a registered sex offender in Colorado is set to waltz away from charges after allegedly trying to snatch an 11-year-old boy during recess at the Black Forest Hills Elementary School in Aurora, Colorado. The reason? He's been deemed too incompetent to stand trial, leaving prosecutors with no choice but to toss the case like a bad salad. Now, Solomon Galligan was caught on video on April 24th of 2024, allegedly chasing a kid like a cartoon villain during a sunny school recess. The footage shows a man grabbing at a student while other children scattered like startled pigeons. It's super scary to watch, said the parent of some of the kids who had a close encounter with the suspect. And they all said, hey, I'd be freaked out if that guy touched me. This was a straight up attempted kidnapping. Look at this guy's photo. Do you want this guy around your kids? Why don't you invite him over to your house, right? He's just misunderstood. Anyway, the 18th Judicial District, which covers Arapahoe County and parts of Aurora, says that they're dropping the charges against Galligan because a mental competency evaluation has found him unfit to face trial. So under Colorado's amended legal framework known as the Ability to Learn and Work law, if a defendant can't be restored to competency, meaning they're unable to understand the charges or assist their attorneys in the defense, the case gets dismissed. No competency, no trial, no kidding. Now, before the ALW law was updated, things worked, well, a little differently. If someone was found incompetent, courts could indefinitely commit them to the mental health facility for treatment until they were deemed fit to stand trial or until the system gave up. This could drag on for years, with defendants languishing in limbo, neither convicted nor free. Now, with the ALW law in play, if restoration isn't possible, the case is dropped and the defendant walks, leaving justice to shrug its shoulders. Now, Mr. Galligan, a registered sex offender tied to the Pueblo County Sheriff's Office, isn't contesting his guilt, at least not directly. The video evidence is about as subtle as a sledgehammer, showing his alleged attempt to nab a kid in broad daylight. Yet because his mental state doesn't meet the courtroom's minimum cognitive bar, he's off the hook. Now, the incident sent shockwaves through the community, with parents firing off a 10-page letter to the Cherry Creek School District officials demanding a top-to-bottom review of the school's response. The fallout? Well, the former principal, Amanda Repelgul, was shown the door. We need to make an administrative change at Black Forest Hills, the district said in an official statement, aiming to wrap up the school year on a positive and productive note. Anyway, the principal admitted to a clear misstep in not locking down the school post-incident, citing confusion over the details at the time. I understand you got a guy that looks like that running around your schools. By God, don't lock the place down. Anyway, since the scare, the school district has rolled out reforms faster than you can say security protocol. Think enhanced safety measures, beefed up security presence, and even indoor recess options for kids who'd rather not roll the dice on the playground, because nothing says student mental health like giving kids a break from potential boogeymen. Anyway, the Cherry Creek School District and the Arapahoe County District Attorney's Office has not made any comment, but they're apparently too busy to chat. For now, Galligan's case is a stark reminder that sometimes the law's fine print can feel like a plot hole in a poorly written script. What do you think? Sound off below. So let me tell you, as somebody that practices law in the state of Colorado, I can actually say that I have benefited from this law. When I say I have benefited, I had a case where a client was not going to be restored. I believe it's after 4 evaluations where they say, guy's not going to be restored. Now, remember, competency is a low bar. Normally, if you can fog a mirror and you can understand why you're in court, what are the roles of the parties, right? The prosecutor, the defense attorney, the judge, and understand what the charges are, you're pretty much deemed competent. Now, if you have schizophrenia and they can't get you back to competency based upon your meds and things like that, I get it. You don't want to waste your time and resources just keeping somebody in custody with the attempts to try to restore them to competency. But if somebody's not mentally well and they have no place to go, why would we want to release them straight to the streets? Something to think about. I mean, listen, bottom line is, a large number of people in the criminal justice system have some sort of mental health issue or diagnosis, underlying issue, whether it's been diagnosed or not. Usually there's lots of self-medications. I mean, it's everybody. We always look for mental health issues in the criminal defense world, because usually those are the underlying issues that have brought somebody to going to court. Let me know what you think. Next, what is going on in Idaho? Another quadruple murder shakes the gem state. Yeah. What in the wide, wide world of Idaho is happening? The gem state, known for its potatoes and picturesque landscapes, seems to have a knack for churning out mysteries that could stump even the sharpest detectives in a novel. The latest head scratcher, a man named Ben Naylor, has been nabbed in connection with 4 first-degree murder charges across Cassia and Minidoka counties. One has to wonder, is there something in the Idaho water, or are we all just staring in an unsolicited true crime docuseries? Now, Naylor was pinched during a routine traffic stop on July 8th in Lincoln County after being pegged as the prime suspect in the deaths of 2 folks in Minidoka County and another pair in Cassia County. Now, the plot thickens faster than a pot of Idaho spud soup when police respond to a 911 call and found a homicide victim in a Rupert home that afternoon. Hours later, 2 more bodies turned up in Cassia County, and a 4th was discovered inside a car in Minidoka. 4 victims, 2 counties, 1 suspect. Talk about a grim scavenger hunt. Now, the Cassia County Prosecutor's Office isn't playing around, slapping Naylor with 4 counts of first-degree murder and holding him without bond. He has been assigned a public defender in both counties, presumably to help him navigate the legal labyrinth in which he finds himself. Meanwhile, law enforcement assure us that Naylor acted alone, so we can all sleep soundly knowing there's no roving band of nadoers terrorizing the countryside. Whew. Anyway, but here's where it gets even more curious. In a Thursday Facebook post, Naylor's daughter dropped a bombshell. Her father had been wrestling with schizophrenia for years, a battle that apparently took a tragic turn. And it's a sobering reminder that behind the headlines, there's a human story, albeit one that's hard to wrap your head around when the body count is this high. Anyway, the public's been eating this up like a plate of fresh-cut Idaho fries, especially after law enforcement teased the crime on social media a full day before spilling the beans on what actually happened. Talk about building suspense. The Cassia County Sheriff's Office, perhaps sensing that the X or Twitter universe will become impatient, issued a Wednesday news release urging folks to chill out and let the judicial process do its thing. Fair enough, but when you got a quadruple murder on your hands, it's hard not to raise an eyebrow or two. Well, Naylor's arrest was a team effort with a roster of agencies longer than the Idaho winter. Rupert Police, Minidoka and Cassia County Sheriff's Office, Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, Heyburn Police, Twin Falls County Sheriff's Office, and the Idaho State Police. It's like the Avengers of law enforcement assembled to take down one guy. Well, Naylor got 2 preliminary hearings lined up, one on July 18th and one on July 23rd. Mark your calendars because the saga is far from over. Now, the Naylor family, through daughter Emily Rianne Awada, issued a heartfelt statement on Thursday expressing grief for the victims and their loved ones. As mothers, wives, daughters, and granddaughters ourselves, they wrote, "It is unfathomable to imagine something so horrific taking place. They're not wrong. It's hard to fathom what's going on in Idaho these days. Is it the isolation of those wide open plains, the long winters, or just a fluke that keeps turning quiet towns like Burley and Rupert into the backdrop of tragedies that sound like they belong in a Coen Brothers flick? One thing's for sure, Idaho's got our attention, and not just for its spuds anymore. Stay tuned, because if this case is any indication, the Gem State's got more surprises up its sleeve. Next, Bryan Kohberger. Getting closer to a motive? In a case that has gripped the nation with all the drama of a true crime docuseries, the University of Idaho murders have taken a twist worthy of a dark comedy, with a new book and courtroom revelation suggesting Bryan Kohberger's motive might boil down to a classic tale of romantic rejection gone catastrophically wrong. Picture this: Moscow, Idaho, November 13th, 2022. 4 bright young University of Idaho students, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Consalves, and Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin, are found stabbed to death in their off-campus rental, a crime that turned a quiet college town into a national headline. Fast forward to July 14th, 2025, and a new book, The Idaho 4, An American Tragedy by James Patterson and Vicki Ward, hits the shelves, peeling back the curtain on a case that has been cloaked in mystery. With over 300 interviews, the authors serve up a theory that Kohberger, then a criminology PhD student at a nearby Washington State University there in Pullman, Washington, wasn't just a scholar of crime, but he nearly pulled off the perfect one. Except for a pesky little knife sheath with his DNA left under Mogen's body like a criminal's calling card. Here's where it gets juicy. The book floats the idea that a bruised ego might have sparked Kohberger's rampage. Word on the street, or at least among the victim's friends, is that Mogen was the target of and the motive. A romantic rebuff. One friend, Emily Alant, shared a vivid, recurring nightmare that Kohberger, perhaps smitten, swung by Mogen's workplace, tried to charm his way into her good graces, and got the cold shoulder. Apparently, some guys take not interested as a personal challenge rather than a cue to move on. Cell phone records back this up with a creepy flourish. Kohberger's phone pinged near the victim's home at least 12 times before the murders, usually in the witching hours. Talk about a guy who wouldn't take a hint. Now, the book paints a vivid picture, weaving perspectives from a surviving roommate who glimpsed a masked figure toting what looked like a vacuum cleaner, because nothing says stealthy assassin like vacuum vibes. Kohberger was nabbed 7 weeks later, and after 2 years of playing the innocence card, he strolled into court on July 2nd to confess to 4 counts of first-degree murder and a side of burglary. His plea deal: 4 life sentences without parole, plus a possible 10-year chaser for breaking and entering. No appeals, no do-overs, just a one-way ticket to prison. Sentencing is set for July 23rd, and, well, Kohberger's written confession confirms he meant to kill, even keeping mom on Y, perhaps too embarrassed to admit it was all because he couldn't get a date. Now, the victims' families are a mixed bag of emotion. Ethan Chapin's parents, Jim and Stacy, are ready to close this grim chapter, content that Kohberger's locked away without a chance to sweet-talk his way out. Now, Stacy described his courtroom confession as cold and calculated, like a robot reading from a script, completely devoid of remorse. Meanwhile, Maze Chapin, Ethan's triplet sister, shared a heart-wrenching tidbit in a new Amazon Prime documentary, One Night in Idaho, The College Murders. The night before the killings, Ethan, her date to a sorority formal, texted her a rare "I love you" after she opted for bed instead of joining him at the frat house. The Mogans families on board with the plea deal, but the Kernodle and the Gonzalez clans aren't thrilled, feeling blindsided by the legal shortcut. Well, Patterson and Ward's book doesn't just chase theories, it's aimed to keep the victims' spirits alive, reminding us that Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan were more than a tragedy's footnote. So as Kohberger's sentence looms, we're left with a story that equals part chilling and absurd. A criminology student armed with book smarts but apparently no game turned a romantic fumble into a national nightmare. If he only swiped right on self-control instead. Next, the curious case of James Craig, a tale of poison. In a suburb of Denver called Aurora, Colorado, where the dental drills hum and protein shakes are a morning ritual, a sinister plot unraveled that could rival the most twisted crime novel. At the center of this saga is James Tolliver Craig, a dentist with a panache for risky ventures, both financial and, as it turns out, felonious. Detective Bobby Olson, a seasoned sleuth in the Aurora Police Department, Major's Crime Homicide Unit, penned an affidavit that read like a script for a thriller, complete with poison, betrayal, and a side of arson. So, James Craig, a 45-year-old blonde, blue-eyed dentist, was no stranger to trouble. His dental practice, Summerbrook Dental Group, was teetering on the edge of financial ruin, much like his marriage to Angela Craig. By March of 2023, the couple's relationship was a battlefield, with James admitting to marital woes and even requesting a divorce in December of 2022. But instead of couples therapy, James seemed to have a more permanent solution in mind. So on March 15th, 2023, Angela Craig, a 43-year-old mother, stumbled into the university hospital with a headache, dizziness so severe it could make a carousel jealous. Accompanied by her brother Mark, she was soon joined by James, who played the part of the concerned husband, tears and all. But as Angela's condition plummeted, culminating in a seizure and life support, suspicions arose. Enter Ryan Redfern, James' business partner and dental school chum, who dropped a bombshell. James had recently ordered potassium cyanide, a substance about as useful in dentistry as a sledgehammer in a root canal. So, Detective Olson, with her sharp instincts and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, dug into the case. The investigation revealed a chilling sequence of events. On February 27th, 2023, James created a clandestine Gmail account, jimandwaffles@gmail.com, used exclusively in the shadowy confines of exam room number 9 at his dental office. This wasn't for sending cute cat memes. James was Googling how many grams of pure arsenic will kill a human, and is arsenic detectable in an autopsy? He even watched YouTube videos like Top 5 Undetectable Poisons that show no signs of foul play. Subtlety apparently was not his forte. Now, by March 4th, James had ordered 10 grams of the crystalline arsenic from Amazon, delivered to his home like a grim Amazon Prime package. 2 days later, Angela was hospitalized with symptoms eerily matching arsenic poisoning, dizziness, nausea, and a head that felt funny. As Angela yo-yoed between hospitals, James ordered potassium cyanide from Midland Scientific, claiming it was a craniofacial reconstruction. The only reconstruction here, however, was James' attempt to rebuild his life. Sends Angela. The cyanide arrived on March 13th, despite James' explicit instruction to his office manager, Caitlin Romero, not to open the personal package. Naturally, an employee named Caddy Van Horn did just that, revealing a canister labeled potassium cyanide with a biohazard sticker. Caitlin, no slouch herself, connected the dots when Angela's symptoms flared again, landing her in the ICU by March 15th. By March 18th, Angela was pronounced brain dead, her symptoms a grim checklist of cyanide and arsenic poisoning, straight from the CDC's greatest hits. Now, just when you thought the tale couldn't get wilder, James upped the ante. While awaiting trial for first-degree murder, after deliberation, new charges emerged like a plot twist was in a soap opera. James, apparently not content with poisoning his wife, allegedly attempted to eliminate the lead detective, Bobby Olson herself. The lead investigator, who had meticulously unraveled the scheme, became the target of a murder plot, and court records allege that James tried to orchestrate an attack on Olson, perhaps hoping to silence the detective who was too good at her job. The specifics are murky, but think clandestine jailhouse whispers. But the charge of attempted murder was added to James' growing rap sheet, proving he was as bold as he was reckless. And then we get a little fiery fiasco, if that wasn't enough. James' attorney, we'll refer to him as former attorney, found himself in a little hot water, literally, in a move that can only be described as cinematic. The counsel, Mr. Working, was forced to withdraw because he was charged for attempting to burn down his marital home with his co-counsel, his wife, Lisa Moses, who's trying this case. And this case is starting. It's still not being streamed. It's even blocked. We checked it just before this. In fact, the court was doing another hearing this morning unrelated to this case. So we were hoping to bring you this trial, but they're not streaming it. And I don't know if the court is blocking it, but I'll try to find out and get you the answers. If we can't bring it directly to you, maybe we can give you the link and you can go watch it for yourself. So yes, things cannot get any more bizarre in this particular case, but it's going to be a good Lifetime movie, I'm sure. So this shows a web of deceit, and James' actions paint a portrait of a man's desperate attempt to escape his crumbling world. His secret email account, his affair with Karen Kane, who jetted into Denver while Angela was laying in a bed dying, and his purchase of arsenic, cyanide, and other chemicals screamed premeditation louder than a dental drill. His claims of Angela's suicidal tendencies were met with skepticism. Her children and sister, Tony, saw no signs of depression, only a tumultuous marriage marked by James' infidelity and financial missteps. Now, Detective Olson's affidavit, a 30-page opus of investigative prowess, laid bare James' calculated moves, from the protein shakes he lovingly prepared for Angela to the surveillance cameras at home that mysteriously lacked accessible footage. Every detail pointed to a man playing a deadly game of chicken, as he himself described it to Ryan. The evidence was overwhelming. Search histories, intercepted packages, and a trail of lies that even a master storyteller couldn't spin into innocence. The moral? Well, crime doesn't pay, but it sure makes for a great story. So, as James Tolliver Craig sits in custody facing charges of first-degree murder and now attempted murder of a detective, his tale serves as a cautionary one. Aurora, Colorado may never look at protein shakes the same way again. Detective Olson, undeterred by threats, stand as the hero of this sordid saga. Her affidavit, a testament to dogged determination. And as his new counsel, they've learned that setting fires, literally and figuratively, rarely ends well. In the end, this is a story of ambition gone awry, of a man who thought he could outsmart toxicology and the law, only to find himself ensnared in his own little web. So next time you sip a protein shake or visit the dentist, spare a thought for Angela Craig and the detective who brought her justice. And maybe, just maybe, check the ingredients. And although Mr. Craig has not been convicted yet, we'll give him the presumption of innocence. His counsel, very learned, Lisa Moses, you never know. She could pull it out. We'll have to wait and see. So we'll give him the presumption of innocence. Next on the docket, the district attorney has been ordered to spill the tea on why the Menendez Brothers abuse claims were swept under the rug, because a Los Angeles Superior Court judge just told the district attorney's office to dish on why they kept juicy, potentially game-changing evidence about the Menendez brothers' sexual abuse claims from the jury during their second trial. Talk about a twist. So let's go a quick flashback. Lyle and Eric Menendez, looking like they just stepped out of a courtroom scene in a Hollywood drama, exit a Santa Monica courtroom on August 6, 1990. A judge had just dropped the bombshell that the brothers' chats with their psychologist after their parents' deaths weren't off limits and could be used as evidence. Back in 1993, Lyle and Eric Menendez took the stand, claiming they gunned down their parents in self-defense after enduring years of sexual abuse, fearing their folks might turn the table and take them out. The first trial, a total cliffhanger, ending with 2 hung juries. Fast forward to trial number 2. Judge Stanley M. Weisberg decided the jury didn't need to hear a peep about the abuse allegations. Spoiler alert, the brothers were convicted of double murder in March of 1996 and slapped with life sentences without parole. Harsh, right? Well, in May of 2023, the defense came back swinging with a habeas petition, waiving 2 shiny new pieces of evidence they say could have flipped the script. First up, a letter Eric wrote to his cousin, Andy Kano, in December of 1988, spilling his guts about his dad. "I've been trying to avoid dad. It's still happening, Andy, but it's worse," Eric wrote, adding, "Every night I stay up thinking he might come in." The bombshell letter, uncovered in 2018 by Jose Menendez's sister, Marta Cano, and handed to journalist Robert Rand, never saw the light of day in either trial. More tea. Andy Cano testified in 1993 that a 13-year-old Eric confided that Jose was massaging his genitals and asked if Andy's dad was pulling the same creepy moves. Once again, spoiler, Andy's dad wasn't. Sadly, Andy passed away in 2003. And then there's this. Former Menudo member Roy Rosello dropped a bombshell of his own, alleging in a motion that Jose Menendez and him in the 1980s, and that Menendez's family at the Menendez's family New Jersey pad, and on 2 other occasions. Ick. On July 8th, the judge laid down the law, giving the DA's office 30 days to explain why they kept the jury in the dark about these abuse claims. Kind of a mic drop, isn't it? Anyway, the Menendez brothers aren't done yet. They're set to strut into court for a parole hearing in August, hot off the heels of their sentence reduction in May. Stay tuned, because this saga is giving a lot of drama still. 35 years later. Next, Lori Vallow. I know she's been convicted, but she filed a motion for a new trial saying the judge made her go to trial when she was sick and she was ill and it wasn't fair. And so the prosecution said, hey, we'd like to get her medical records. And guess what? The judge, with a judicial flourish, greenlit the state's quest to peek into Lori Vallow's medical records from May 30th to June 13th. And with a raised eyebrow, the judge declared they're not a shred of evidence to back her claim of being too under the weather to face trial. Apparently, the only diagnosis on record comes straight from Daybell's own lips, hardly a medical journal's gold standard. Could you imagine Lori Vallow being untruthful to the court or anybody else in her life? Could you imagine that? Anyway, as for those keeping tabs on the courtroom drama, here's the Vallow bid for a new trial where it hit a snag. The state clapped back with a response promptly requesting it be sealed tighter than a pickle jar. No shocker there, as prosecutors have been itching to get their hands on Vallow's health records before. Anyway, the gavel's still silent on a ruling, but mark your calendars. Sentencing is set for July 25th. Next, this day in legal history, on July 14th, 1798, Congress passed the Sedition Act, which declared that any treasonable activity, including the publication of any false, scandalous, and malicious writing, was a misdemeanor punishable by a fine and imprisonment. Now, most of those expired, but sought to keep public discord down and to shy away from anyone questioning what the government was doing. And on this date, on July 14th, 1874, the Chicago fire burned 47 acres, destroying 812 buildings and killing 20 people, prompting the fire insurance industry to demand municipal fire safety reforms influencing urban legal codes. On July 14th, 1881, outlaw William Bonner Jr., alias Billy the Kid, was shot and killed by Sheriff Pat Garrett in Fort Sumner, New Mexico, marking a significant moment in Old West law enforcement. And on July 14th, 1974, Ted Bundy abducted Janice Ott and Denise Naslund from the Lake Samarish State Park in Washington state, escalating his serial killings and later influencing legal approaches to serial crime investigations. That's right, people now they actually talk with other jurisdictions. What a radical idea. I know back at the time they didn't have the technology. And on July 14th, 2023, the U.S. architect Rex Heuermann was charged with 3 of 11 possible murders in the Gilgo Beach serial killing on Long Beach, New York, dating back to 2007, obviously marking a significant breakthrough in this long unsolved case that still hasn't gone to trial with no court date set. They're litigating DNA reliability issues. Next, we have a quote of the day regarding mental health issues. So the American Psychiatric Association's position statement, though not attributable to a single individual, states the following. The criminal justice system should not be the primary mechanism for addressing mental illness. Persons with mental disorders who come into contact with the criminal justice system should be treated with compassion and provided with the appropriate mental health care rather than punitive sanctions. Let me know what you think. I kind of agree, disagree. But these days, man, we got more specialty courts than you can shake a stick at. We've got competency court. We've got mental health courts. We've got PTSD courts. We've got veterans courts, DUI courts, you name it. We've got a specialty court for it. And a lot of it's weird. I wouldn't say weird. It's just a different way than what you normally are used to. People are put on probation. They're told to don't do drugs, don't drink alcohol. They show up to court and they win prizes for doing what they're supposed to do. Not drink, don't do drugs, don't commit crime. It's a different world, ladies and gentlemen. Makes me wonder if maybe some days, I love social workers. They do a great job. We hire social workers all the time to go through and get records for people with mental health issues because, well, almost every client has mental health issues, right? Not all, a lot. But the reality of it is that I became a lawyer to litigate cases, to try cases. I did not become a lawyer to be a mental health expert. I did not become a lawyer to be a social worker. But that's some days what I feel like I do. Like the attorney and counselor at law. Now, I guess I could be a life coach. I could live with that. But all the other stuff, where you're going to get your next meal, where you're going to live when you're done with your court case, things like that. That's not really my forte, so to speak. And like I said, what do you do when 90% of the people in the system have either a diagnosed or undiagnosed mental health issue? Let me know. Let me know. Finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Picture this. You're craving a piping hot pizza, eagerly tracking your Grubhub driver when, well, there's a little bit of a twist. The delivery takes a detour to the Slammer. That's exactly what happened in Tempe, Arizona, when a driver got nabbed during a traffic stop, leaving a cheesy order in limbo. But fear not, pizza lovers, because the Tempe Police Department swooped in to save the day and the slices of pizza. Now, in a viral video captioned with a sly, "When your Grubhub driver gets arrested, Tempe Police delivers." The department showcased their July 4th heroics. The footage captures two officers, pizza box in hand, rolling up to a customer's door like the culinary cavalry. The customer, clearly expecting a standard delivery guy and not a badge, greets them with a stunned, "Hello? How are you doing?" One officer asks the cool as a cucumber, "Good. How are you?" She replies, probably wondering if this is a prank. "Very good, Brandy." The pizza-toting officer confirms, making sure the pepperoni pizza lands in the right hands. Yes, she nods, still processing. Here comes the big one. "So your Grubhub guy got arrested, so we're still delivering your pizza." The officer deadpans. Cue Brandy's jaw hitting the floor. I really appreciate the pizza, she manages, while the second officer, Ever the optimist, chimes in. It still should be warm because nothing says community service like a toasty pie. Anyway, the Tempe Police Department didn't stop at the doorstep. They took their pizza prowess to X, posting the order was hot and ready, and the suspect was caught and steady. A+ for a little wordplay. They added, we're committed to serving our community 24/7, whether it's safety or pizza delivery. Now, authorities later explained that the driver was busted for reckless driving and racing. Talk about a high-speed chase for mozzarella. So next time your delivery is running late, don't panic. Your local cop might show up, pizza in hand, ready to make your night a little more arrestingly delicious. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for you today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. And remember, the Constitution matters.